So we will do a little bit of theory and then continue. Okay. So you added that thing, and then okay, the next thing is like we will do that ngFar and then print it.
Oh yeah.
Add servers that we will do. Then we will also do ng directives. We'll work on that. Ngif is also there. Did you try out ngif yesterday?
NG what?
Ngif.
I have not yet. No.
No problem. We'll check it out. Okay, 1 second. So I'll just share the screen for like few minutes, refreshing ourselves, like what we learned or things like that. So there is a something called like an RxJS. You might hear it several times when you are working on Angular applications.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you heard of something called observer pattern?
I'm like learning how this stuff works, but I don't know, to be honest.
I was just trying to. Have you heard of something called observer pattern?
No.
Okay, no problem. So there's something called as a design patterns where it provides you a little bit like a elegant way of making objects communicate with each other or notify changes. Like example, here in India, when we purchase any item from Amazon website, it will send you notifications to say like, okay, your order has been received, your order has been shipped, your item is expected to deliver today, maybe tomorrow, who is going to deliver, and all those SMSs or messages you will keep receiving it on your mobile.
Okay.
Okay, so that means the data, they have added me as an observer for the order what I have placed, and as and when the order status changes, it keeps sending me notifications. Correct, no? So I have a subject and I have subscribed myself as an observer, and whenever the data received, I will be informed or I will be updated on the changes happening. Like example, track your order, track your courier. Those kind of things you might be hearing it, right? That is nothing but an observer pattern where one observer will be watching for the change in the data on the subject. And whenever there is a state change, you will attach yourself and you will be informing all the parties who are interested, like the state has changed, please update yourself, kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay. So this concept has been carried over in Angular using a library called RxJS.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, everything is made as asynchronous. That means your thread is not blocked. You are actually not waiting. Instead, you will be notified when change happens, and you will be able to, since you will receive the notification, you can go ahead and update yourself based on the change what has happened.
Okay.
So this library is provided by a feature called RxJS, which is what was integrated with Angular in the version Angular 7. Okay, there was a lot more improvements because in Angular 6 the RxJS was little more primitive, but they added more richer functionality by RxJS 6.3 version. Okay, just wanted you to be aware of that. Okay. And there is also a material called like Angular material, which is another library, which is also kind of open source, you can say, where provides you a richer experience in, like, say, for example, you can create a good table, good looking tables for productional purposes and all those things. There is an Angular material library, which is provided as a part of the Angular 6 stack. Okay. Then animations, performance improvements, and so on. But if you observe, like, you will be more enjoying the performance, no doubt. But not many applications are really using animations because you might not have the need of it from the business perspective. But just be aware that those kind of functionality has been provided with different versions, but everything is backward compatible. Okay. So you don't have to worry about the building application, anything on Angular 2, it will still work in the later version as well. Okay.
Okay.
So you already created the ng new and all those things. There's nothing surprising about that. Okay, and the Angular libraries. Okay, so you could remember that when you install, remember we did something called like adding the bootstrap library.
Um,
Remember that there was a command we used to add bootstrap library, like npm install hyphen save bootstrap kind of thing. So same way you could add new library by typing in the following way.
I
So just
remember I remember when you installed Bootstrap yesterday, you
correct,
had to like,
correct,
manually put it
correct.
in the style Angular or something like
No,
that.
that was first we do the npm install, and then we do, or say for example that npm install we did, and then we add. See, once one is you need to install it. Second thing is you need to make the TypeScript or Visual Studio editor or TypeScript to understand that there is a Bootstrap library available.
Mm,
Because one is you are, see, remember that one is TypeScript, one is JavaScript, right? TypeScript, sorry, the TypeScript, sorry. So the TypeScript also should know, like, because at the runtime, Angular knows JavaScript, Angular knows it, but TypeScript doesn't know it. So when you are building the application, the TypeScript should also know, right? So that is the reason why we are using that manual thing of in giving the style sheet location and so on. Are you with me?
yeah,
No,
I get the add command.
sure, no problem. So that is one thing, okay. And so just be aware of that part also. So you can add more libraries, like example d1 is another library. uh, I think we used the d1 for like I remembered it using for uh, how do I say, some graphical application I was working on towards showing some like a D3 graph and so on. So there we had explored something called as a D3 package. Okay, so just be aware that there are multiple packages available. You could leverage or use them. Okay, just be aware of that.
Okay.
So if you observe here, you are installing the Bootstrap, then specifying the styles in the Bootstrap, which we already did yesterday. Okay,
Okay.
so this is one other thing. Um, just so, what is the purpose of ng modules?
So like when you create a new component, you need to tell Angular that it exists, right?
Correct.
So in the in the app.modules
Correct.
file, you would add that new component so that Angular can communicate with it.
Correct. But also, like for example, you need the two-way binding kind of use cases. You need that ng module, which comes as a part of the farm module.
Oh, right. That's true.
Yeah. So just be aware of that also. So when you add, like say for example, at ng module, you added that farms module. Okay. So just be aware of that also. For using two-way binding, you generally need that ng model kind of. So what is a component?
A component is essentially the whole point of Angular. It contains its own state. Um, I don't know how to explain it honestly.
No worries, no worries. You can use your own words. I'm not expecting you to read a book answer, but more like any UI component, whatever you create, more like those are all reusable components, or you can say reusable UI pieces, which are plugged together to build a complex application.
Yeah,
Okay,
I like that.
components and see services are more like leveraged by all the components. Like example, when you have to communicate to the backend on your application, like in the say for example, sorry, Amazon site, show me the list of products or get me the list of product. Based on the product ID, give me the details on the product. Give me the customer feedback. Give me the rating on the purchases people have made. There is also something called verify purchase. So a lot of features which needs data to be communicated to the backend and get the responses. So there we will have a service component which will be leveraged by the whole of Angular, sorry, whole of the application or the front end. So there we use services to do the job, and services are more like global.
Okay.
Means it will be leveraged by the whole of the application, right? So that is why it is called like global. But intention behind that is it will be used by all the components.
Okay.
Okay. And remember that we talked about that Angular architecture diagram. Like you
Yes.
have a component talks to the template. You have data binding like property binding or event binding. Like when somebody updates the data on the server name, you retrieved it through the event and then send that request to the backend and so on. We didn't send it to the backend yet, but we'll write some services which will be
Injected.
sending the data to the maybe to a persisting location and so on.
So I have a question about the injections.
Sure.
So when you inject, do you inject per component or is it in every single component at once?
Okay, that's a good question. So let's assume that in your server components, are you able to see my screen, right? So
Yes.
okay, let's assume that I'm going to have. Uh, I'm just now. If you observe that, I have actually created a service component which will be now in the constructor. When I specify like this service component will be injected when this component gets created. Now what would I do here on the onInit function? I will say make a call to the backend,
Mhm.
get all servers. Are you able to see that?
Yeah.
So if you observe, I injected the backend service, and then I on the onInit function when the component gets created, I say give me all the servers, and then
Okay.
I will say list of servers, store all the data into the list of servers.
So the injections happens in the constructor of a
Correct,
component.
correct. You got it. Now,
Gotcha.
whichever component needs it, here I'm injecting the backend service and getting all servers. Same way on the server.component, I might inject the object backend service and say for a particular server, give me the server details.
Okay.
So if you observe in the cloud environment, you might be spinning off maybe a Mac machine, maybe a Linux server, maybe a Windows server, maybe virtual machine and so on. So you have different types of server and server details. So based on that, you can ask like for every server, give me the details. Like what is the cost of the server? Is it a high CPU or high memory? Those kind of details can be obtained by the server. So server will get you the individual server detail. Servers will get you the complete server list, what is there on the backend. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, so there now you inject the particular data or a service component based on your need.
All right. Makes sense.
Okay, just be aware of that part. Okay, so this is okay. So that's where injection is nothing but services will be injected into the component which needs it.
Nice. Got you.
Okay, so template directives and data binding, we have been learning that like a template and directives, and component itself is a directive. Just be aware of that also. Okay, event binding is used to bind events to your app. We have been doing that like event objects. Okay, so we will learn about routing later, but router
Okay.
is used to navigate between the pages, navigate between the components and so on.
Yep.
Generally, like you have a URL in the top, and then you navigate between multiple components because it's a single page app, right? So when you navigate it, it actually makes it look like actually you are navigating through pages, but it's actually you are staying in the same page but changing the DOM itself.
Okay.
Okay, just be aware of that as well. Okay. So I will explain you how router works. So don't worry about that. But what I'm trying to say is whenever you navigate between components, no, certain times you have the privilege on certain components, like maybe there might be admin component, which not many users are accessible, are able to access it. So router has a capability, something called what we generally say called router guard. Okay.
Right.
So when you navigate between the components, that router guard can check whether you have access privileges for a particular component, and if so, then only it will allow you to navigate to that particular component. Otherwise, it will say that you don't have access or you don't have privilege and so on.
Okay.
Okay. So we will check those things, but just be aware of it that those things are available in Angular application. So the router interprets the link URL. Generally, it might be like a relative URL and then apply navigation rules. Remember, I was mentioning to you whether certain person has a privilege or not. Based on that, it will allow the user to navigate to that particular page and persist the data and so on. I mean, it will help you in persisting basically. Yeah, it doesn't do any persist by itself. Yeah. Remember, everything is a UI centric, right? So it focuses on presentation and so on. Persisting, you need to define and do it yourself. So we learned yesterday how to create a component. So nothing new on those things. Okay. Remember, I think he's doing exactly something similar only what we have done, like ng server component, and then creating like a list of server and so on. Okay. So ng directives. Okay. What is the error? So in this particular HTML, whatever you are seeing here, what is this class is equal to container means?
Um, you're just like adding like a specifier so you could access it with CSS.
Correct. Basically, it provides you a bootstrap layout. Bootstrap has a class called
Oh,
container.
right.
So
That's
you're
true.
leveraging the bootstrap container class, container style property.
Right.
Okay. So if you observe that you had created a function called on add server and you were adding the list of servers. Now here is an example where you are using a list of server and you have one function called on remove server also. So try to explore this and kind of I'll send this link anyway.
Okay.
So try to add this new function called remove server and remove the server what you have added and so on. Since you have already done one function already called add server, I think you have a different name called create server. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, both do the same. So,
Are you gonna send the link to me?
yeah, hold on one second. I'll send you the link. So can you go to that link and just add that extra functionality of remove server so that you will also become little more like practice makes you perfect kind of thing.
So when I remove the server, do you want me to remove it from the
Uh,
DOM?
from that, not from, yeah, basically ng far will actually add the element into the DOM and once you remove it, it will actually remove from the DOM.
Okay.
Remove from the list actually will remove from the DOM anyway.
All right, I'm sharing my screen.
No problem.
So
Anyway, that website has the details. So you can just explore that and add that extra functionality.
so do I add a button to remove a server?
How he has done it is more like, has he added a button there? I'm
Um,
guessing when he's printing it itself, he is adding a list next to that. I think he's adding a check mark or something like that.
oh, okay. So, okay, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
leverage the, yeah, that
it's
kind
on
of,
the floor.
yeah,
It's on
that
the okay. Okay.
take your time, no rush.
Oh, you know what? I'm probably gonna need an ID. Well, I guess not, but as long as the names are
Yeah,
unique.
check it out, man. Manipulate the code, change it, play around with it.
Um, I don't need to do this. I could just say server name is equal to this server name. Wait, actually, hold on. Wait, so when I'm using the filter function on the server list, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Um, I'm inputting, I'm selecting, okay, I'm using the name to find the specific server to remove.
Okay. Hold on a second. Server list dot filter. Uh, why would you need to filter that server name?
Well, the reason why is if I'm removing, so I guess so if I have like if I click, if I have something next to
Correct.
each four
Correct.
on each list, when I, okay, it has to be an event.
I think the style itself will provide you that. He remember observe that he has something called ng for and let I is equal to index.
Oh,
That variable called I which he is using, and you
okay,
could leverage that index itself. And on remove server is passing that index I as a
okay,
parameter.
that makes sense.
So just simple, easy.
All right. Let me just make sure this works. My screen is like freezing. Just a second.
No problem. No rush. Take your time.
All right. So which way would you recommend to remove an element from an array? I was going to use filter, but
Now filter is not needed. You can just remove the element by index.
yeah, but okay.
Splice is also one another way of doing it. Yeah.
Like, is there a direct way of using the index as opposed to using splice?
Now splice is basically it will cut the array. It takes internally. It's more like the JavaScript framework or TypeScript framework takes care of it. You don't need to worry about managing the index, moving the elements, and also. Try your best to use the functions what is available already, so that we tend to make less mistakes.
Uh,
See, sometimes like it might look silly that we have to we are reusing the function what is written and all those things, but generally these are all well tested, right? So things going wrong would be little more lesser.
Okay. You see, uh, I don't know how the splice function works.
Okay, no worries. I'll explain you. That part remaining thing at least you could be able to figure it out. So. Okay, he's actually not taking the name only, but he's actually using an add server and just putting push, saying that like an array and keep adding the servers.
Wait, what do you mean?
No, no, what I meant is that the server array is there, right? The
Yeah.
server array has a push method which we leverage to do that. Hold on a second, I'm sending in the chat. So the server array, he's just adding an add server and he's just keep adding new server without passing the name. So I'm sending that out. So you can just make some adjustments to match to your code. That's it.
Yeah.
So you wanted me to explain the splice method.
I feel like I already did that though.
It's pretty much like JavaScript splice only. Both are same.
Yeah. Wanna do an MDN?
Sorry.
Why is this in German?
So this has one example on slice method. So just if you like to take a look at it and read. So don't get scared by the link, but it's just a simple example there. So. There is a run button also there. You can just try and see it in action.
This is slice though.
Yeah.
I
We
know
are
how slice works. I just I
okay.
never this. Maybe I should add a one delete count.
Are we using splice or slice?
I'm using slice.
Okay, then it's correct. Slice is good enough for me, right? For now. There's one more like splice, but deleting it at a particular location or something like that. But
If I did that way. Okay, so I think it works now.
Okay.
Can you
Uh,
see my screen?
but by any chance, the delete also works? There
Yeah.
is no.
So if I delete in the middle,
Okay.